Welcome to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, the show where you get the inside access to the best minds in the game. Each week, Chris has the privilege of chatting with top instructors, legendary players, course architects, and industry insiders. If you're looking to improve your game, gain a new perspective, or just hear some incredible golf stories, you are indeed in the right place.
You see, Chris, let me tell you something, I haven't spoken to a press man in my life that is knowledgeable, seriously, as you are. Never.
You do such a great job. It kind of makes me feel good all of a sudden.
You do so much for the game. You're so kind to all of us that are out there in the game. You know, we need more people like you in the game of golf.
Thank you for pressing play. Now, grab your clubs, step up to the tee, and let's get started. This is Next on the Tee.
Hi, folks, and welcome into this week's edition of Next on the Tee, where golf legends live and your game gets better. I'm your host, Chris Mascaro, and what a show I have in store for you this week. I've got three wonderful friends back with me who have accomplished so much in the game, and they have great stories to share as well. And we're going to start things off with 1991 Open Champion Ian Baker-Finch. Finchy is such an amazing person. He's turned himself into one of the all-time great golf analysts and broadcasters after the last nearly 30 years now. I can't believe it's been that long that he's been doing this. Looking back at the Open Championship that he won at Royal Birkdale, he was just brilliant over those 4 days. He won by 2 that week over fellow Aussie Mike Harwood and by 3 over Fred Couples and Mark O'Meara. Now, too many people want to focus on the struggles that Ian had with his game years later, and they miss that Ian had a great playing career. He won the 1983 New Zealand Open in his first professional tournament. Then, the year after he goes out and wins that Open Championship, he finished runner-up at the Players and tied for 6th at the Masters. Won 17 times between the PGA Tour, the European Tour, the Japanese Tour, and the Australasian Tour. From 1983 to 1994, he was one of the very best players on the planet. Too many people are under the misconception that he struggled immediately after winning that Open, which wasn't true. They focus on his decline when he does interviews. You can almost sense it because Finchy tends to go there kind of naturally, I think, because he's just been conditioned to do that. I don't want to do that. We don't do that at all this week. We focus on his decade plus of excellence on the course and nearly 3 decades of excellence behind the microphone. He's collaborated with a friend to write a book that is due out in August titled To Hell and Back, which is kind of a docudrama in book form, which he tells us all about. Look, I think you're really going to enjoy this segment with Ian that's coming up. He, like I say, is just a fantastic guy and a wonderful player, so he joins me here in just a few minutes. Following him is Paul Stankowski. Stanko's a guy who has been with me ever since very early on in season number 1. This is the 14th time that I've had the privilege of getting to spend some time with Paul. He is fresh off of back-to-back top 10 finishes in the U.S. Senior Open and the Dick's Sporting Good Open, so his game is in great form, which we talk about. Plus, we look ahead to the Senior Open Championship at Sunningdale Golf Club, plus the thrill he gets to have with his son Josh on the bag with him now, and the great work he is doing with an organization called Direction 613. They are dedicated to helping find homes for kids who have moved out of foster care when they turn 18. I didn't know, but once kids turn 18, folks, the state gives them $500 and sends them out into the world, and if they've got no place to go, they become homeless. Go check out the organization online at direction613.org. Paul is raising money for them for each birdie that he makes this year out on tour. Check out his Instagram page to go pledge and help these kids get off to a better life. Then in part 2, it's a very emotional segment with a guy who I think is a creative genius, and that is Michael Whalen. If you're not familiar with Michael, go follow him on Twitter at Michael J. Whalen. He's had an amazing career as a producer and a writer. He's the guy who got the Golf Channel off the ground back in 1994 and 95. He created all the shows, hired all the talent in front of and behind the cameras, gave Scott Van Pelt his start in the business. He made Mr. Palmer's dream of a 24/7, 365 Golf Channel become a reality. When people inside the industry scoffed at a 24-hour Golf Channel, Michael not only made it happen, he shocked everybody with the quality of the programming and the talent that he hired. He talks about how he did all of that in under 6 months, folks. We also delve into the physical struggles that he is now going through as cancer has attacked several parts of his body, plus the physical and emotional trauma he and his wife are going through as Parkinson's disease is slowly taking its toll on her and taking her away from him. I love Michael. He is a wonderful friend, has been so for many years. He's collaborated on a new book with our mutual great friend Tucker Booth, titled The Final Broadcast, which will be out soon. So you'll hear all about all of that when Michael joins me in part 2. So folks, a great couple of hours in store for you ahead this week. I know you're really going to enjoy it. So thank you for tuning in, pressing play, and taking the journey with me this week. Okay, but before we get into this week's show, I want to start off by giving a shout out to our good friends over at the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review. TribLive.com is the leading news website for Western Pennsylvania with news around the clock. Pittsburgh Pro sports coverage, a high school sports network, a podcast network, which you can find next on the T on. So go out and bookmark TribLive.com or download the Trib Live app for free and stay up to date with all the news in Western Pennsylvania and this show. I also want to talk about our friends over at the Pittsburgh Brewing Company and Iron City Beer, a brand that I have loved my whole life and started drinking when I was 21 years old, of course. Whether you're a hacker or a scratcher, the secret to a successful day on the links is knowing when it's time to grab an iron, even if that means keeping it in the bag till the 19th hole. If it's been a while since you've reached for Pittsburgh staple beer, it's time to revisit Iron City. Thanks to their incredible new facility in Creighton, the best-tasting Iron City beer ever made is now available at a course near you. Iron City pairs well with any lie and sky and serves as a friendly reminder that there's always next round. Iron City Beer, best enjoyed while enjoying life. And folks, this year, get ready to experience the game like you've never experienced it before at the Keep. It's the brand new Bill Bergen and Reese Jones co-designed course up at Macklemore. Nestled high atop Lookout Mountain, the Keep offers breathtaking vistas that are even more spectacular in person than they are in the pictures and the videos. With its challenging layout and awe-inspiring views, every round there is an unforgettable adventure. Whether you're taking on the signature holes or just soaking in the scenery, the Keep is where your best golf meets nature's finest backdrop. So grab your clubs and join us up at Macklemore this year. The Keep is open for preview play and it's waiting for you. But you gotta hurry now because spots and availability are filling up fast. So don't wait. Check out both courses, the Highlands and the Keep, for yourself online at themacklemore.com, and then do yourself and your buddies, or yourself and your family a solid by getting your spot reserved now. And experience distance and forgiveness all at once with the new QI35 driver from TaylorMade. QI35 is designed to give golfers more distance from more of the face while maintaining maximized forgiveness through high MOI designs. Whether you're looking for low spin and maximum workability, or easy launch and plenty of adjustability, it's available in low spin, core, and max models. QI35 also has a full assortment of fairway woods and rescues to deliver distance and forgiveness throughout the top end of your bag. Check them all out online at TaylorMadeGolf.com. All right, now back in next on the tee with me is 1991 Champion Golfer of the Year and now a fantastic broadcaster, and that is Ian Baker-Finch. Let me remind you about Finchy's background. He's from Queensland, Australia. He turned pro back in 1979, and he credits Jack Nicklaus as his greatest influence. He developed his game by reading Mr. Nicklaus's book, Golf My Way. He won his first professional tournament at the 1983 New Zealand Open. He finished third in the World Series of Golf in 1988 and started playing regularly out on the PGA Tour in '89. He won his first PGA Tour event that year at Colonial. He would win again a little bit later on that year at the Bank of Boston Classic. We all remember the great victory that he had at the 1991 Open Championship at Royal Birkdale, finishing with rounds of 64 and 66 to win by 2 over fellow countryman Mike Harwood and 3 strokes over Fred Couples and Mark O'Meara. The following year, he finished tied for 6th at the Masters and 2nd at the Players' Championship. In 2000, he was awarded the Australian Sports Medal for his achievements in Australian sports. Now he's clearly one of the all-time great golf analysts in the business. He's got a new book out that is titled To Hell and Back, which you can get right now as an audiobook out on audible.com. I've got mine, the hardback version, on Amazon, pre-ordered, which is scheduled to be released in August. And it's always a privilege to have him here with me on Next on the Tee. Hey, Finchy, how are you, my friend?
I am very well, sir. Great to be back with you, Chris.
So, Finchy, before we get into this week's Open and your new book, I saw that you, Jim Nance, and a couple of buddies snuck down to St. Andrews and played down there before the final round of the Scottish Open. What was it like going back to the home of golf and teeing it up with those guys?
We had such a great day. It really was a beautiful day. Weather was quite calm for there on the water, maybe 10 or 15 mile an hour breeze, which is ideal for links golf. Was 78 degrees, was absolutely ideal. And to get back to the old course anytime is a real treat. And to play there with Jim Nance and our two buddies, Dave Reneker and Tom Spencer, the four caddies that joined us, we just had a really fantastic afternoon. Memorable.
You've had an opportunity to play 3 Opens there, going back to 84, then 90 and 95. Most of us only get to dream of what it's like to play at St. Andrews. I'm guessing you've played it dozens of other times as well, but is it still awe-inspiring from you to walk up to the first tee, put a peg in the ground there?
Oh, yeah. It's the home of golf. It's the mother of all golf courses. It's a special moment on the first tee because there's a lot of public around that come and watch, and it's a big deal. That most of the people that come there, they're getting photographs. They have their family come. They might have won a time in the lottery. I won the lottery. I get to play with Jim Nance and my two buddies. So it's just a very special place. It really deserves the accolades it achieves and is rewarded with.
Did Nance do any of his, as you're walking up to the tee, does he announce you guys as you're about to tee off?
No, we were actually, one of the media companies there for the Links Trust came out and wanted to do a couple of interviews with Jim and I. So we're a bit busy, a bit hectic, if you will, the first few minutes. But once we teed off and got going, it was just us. So, no, Jimmy, I'm sure if he's out with his mates, he's hello, friends, and on the tee, whatever. But no, we're trying to enjoy some time together and soak in the experience.
Let's switch gears a little bit because I want to talk about your new book that you have coming out again. It's titled To Hell and Back. What inspired you to put that book together?
I was asked by a friend of mine who's written a couple of nice books about Sir Bob Charles and Peter Thompson. And he came to me 3.5, 4 years ago and said, it's about time you did your book. And I'd been putting it off for years. And I'm like, no, I don't really need to. I don't want to. And he convinced me that it was, for my family, for my granddaughters to have it in print, to tell my story. Now was a good time to do it as I got older, and it was convincing in his attitude towards it. So we got together, and the book is written by Jeff Saunders, good friend of mine now, who I spend a lot of time with, and we've become very close friends. He's my age and has started out his life as a golf pro, became an attorney at law, and ran his own business for many, many years. Just golf lover like me. He and his wife Marie travel around playing golf like Jenny and I do. So anyway, he wrote the book. I'm the subject of the book. But Chris, the book is a really nice read. It's like a novel on an era in golf. I just happen to be center of the stage, if you will, on this book. I'm very proud of it. It's as I said, I'm not the author. I just authorized him writing it and including me in the story. So people will enjoy it. It's a very nice read.
Why did he choose that title?
He didn't choose the title, mate. The publishing company chooses the title. It could quite easily have been called To Heaven and Back. In my mind, I just thought calling it, Ian Baker-Finch, a love affair in golf or something like that. But the editors and the publisher suggested the title To Hell and Back. I think everyone wants to know. Basically, he said to me, people want to know your story. And I said, I bloody hell want to know my story too. I want to know what happened. So there's a lot of that, how I got to be an Open champion, and then what happened afterwards. And then my last, 30 years I've been doing the golf commentary and TV and what have you around the world. So there's a lot in there. It's packed. It's around the world in 80,000 words.
Well, I certainly can't wait to get my copy of it. You mentioned Peter Thompson a moment ago, and looking back to the early part of your professional career, just prior to you winning the 83 New Zealand Open, I read that he gave you a small tip that paid big dividends for you about moving the ball back in your stance. Talk about that and the impact he had on you.
Yeah, Peter was, for whatever reason, he believed in me far more than I believed in myself. Early on in my early days, 20 to 23, he could see that I had what it took, whatever that was. And he could just see that there was a couple of things in my swing that he could help me with. And he did so at this time, late 82. And it basically changed my life, because having the great Peter Thompson, 5-time British Open champion, have any interest in a young boy like myself at that time was a huge shot in the arm as far as the confidence goes. And it really helped. And I worked hard, and he helped me along the way. And we played a lot of golf together in 1983 and 84 before he started to come and play the Champions Tour, which he won 9 times his first year as a 54-year-old, and set all sorts of records. But anyway, it was just having been self-taught, it was nice to have someone like that see that I had something special, and his guidance and pearls of wisdom helped me along the way.
Finchy, I think some people have the misconception that immediately after you won the Open in 91 that everything fell apart, but that's not accurate. You finished second in the Players in 92. You won over in Australia as well in 92 and 93. Finished tied for 10th in the Masters in 94. Heck, you were only 4 back of Lehman going into that final round. So you contended well after winning that Open, and I think that's a misconception about your career.
Yeah, it was really 3 years after I played okay, but then I was trying to improve my swing, improve my game, and I kind of lost what got me there. I lost the ability to own my own swing, and I think all of the really great players own their swing and can fix it mid-round, certainly can fix it mid-tournament. And I lost that because I was striving so much through coaching and trying to get better and improve and hit the ball further that I lost my way, basically, and I ran around chasing my tail for a year or so, and then it became a mental issue because I kept missing the cut, and it became I missed in 1994, 95. There was a period where I missed 7 cuts by a shot, and that's mental. That's nothing but mental. And then I missed in 95, 15 in a row. And then in 96, 11 in a row, and quit playing. I still had 5 years exemption left on the PGA Tour when I quit playing. It just became too hard to figure out why it was all going on. So back in those days, I wasn't making the money that the young fellas are making these days. I didn't have big contracts, and I had 2 young daughters at home and a lovely wife that I wanted to take care of and spend more time with, not keep bashing my head against the wall. So I stepped aside from the game. But it was a couple of years of real, tough times trying to figure it all out. And the sliding door moment was the 97 Open, where I played so poorly. It was I need to step away, and I was given the opportunity to do the TV. And, here I am 30 years on.
Yeah, but I don't want to focus, on the downside, because I want to stay kind of like in that bubble, because 92, 93, 94, you're one of the best players in the world.
Yeah, well, 88 to 93, I'd agree with you. I was thereabouts, top 10, top 20, whatever. I never really saw myself as the best or wanting to be the best. I just wanted to be the best I could be. And where I'd come from, I was doing a pretty good job of that. But I was also all the time trying to get better. And I think that's a bit of a pitfall that a lot of youngsters fall into, is that they want to improve, they want to get better, they'll pay it at whatever the cost. And sometimes you just need to be patient and take your time, and things will improve. And dance with who you brung, which is something Sam Snead said famously decades ago. But yeah, I did. I played well for a while, but that's so long ago now. The Open Championship was 1991. That's 34 years ago now. It's a lot of water under the bridge since then, Chris.
Hal Sutton, who is another wonderful friend of the show, talked about after winning the 83 Players and the PGA Championship, people got in his ear about how he should be winning more. He should be the next Jack Nicklaus. They all had swing tips for him. He started listening and trying to change things, and he essentially ended up walking away from the game for several years. He didn't find his way back to the winner's circle for 9 years. As I was reading more and more about you, your story sounds very eerily similar to what Hal went through. Would you agree?
Yes, I think so. I think Hal, as a young man, was so good, and having won the PGA and Player of the Year in 1983, people were expecting so much of him, and he was the phrase the next Jack Nicklaus. It's just too much pressure for a young man. I think a lot of players have had that. I think Jerry Pate, as a young man, and also in the mid to late 70s, was a lot of pressure put on him to be the next superstar. And you're not comfortable just being yourself and playing the way you play. You start trying to play better. Your expectations are raised because other people expect so much of you. You have to be comfortable being the person you were before the big wins, and understand that when you play well, the big wins will come. And when you're not playing so well, you'll be at this level. Not everyone's a Scotty Scheffler or a Rory McIlroy or a Xander Schauffele. It's hard to be a major champion and continue to win major championships. I really admire those guys that have done that. And yeah, it's not easy out there. There's a lot of pressure, and people tend to put a lot of pressure on you when you're a young man showing promise.
Speaking of things that aren't easy, you just don't turn yourself into one of the all-time great commentators because someone handed you a microphone. How'd you do it?
Just I put all my attention when I stopped playing into doing the television, and being comfortable being myself, which is really all I've done for nearly 3 decades now. Is I just go there and I'm me. The first couple of years I tried to be who I thought a commentator should be, and a very good friend of mine, Tom Ramsey, rest his soul, said to me, you're trying to be something different. Just be yourself. Don't try and be whoever it is you're trying to be. And after he told me that, from about 2000 on, I've really just been myself, and I'm comfortable being myself on TV. And after a while of doing it, you realize that whatever you've said's gone. You can't dwell in the past. Sometimes you say something silly, or say sometimes something incorrect. Certainly things that you regret saying at times, when players will come and say to you, "Hey, why did you say that? That's not right." So it's really just putting my heart and soul into doing what I do now. And I did the same thing as a player. I was given the opportunity because I had done a good job when I first was given the opportunity. And they've kept hiring me to be me, which is, I've been blessed to have a long career doing it.
Switching gears, Finchy, not long ago you ventured over to New Zealand and played Waireki Golf and Sanctuary plus Te Arai Links. where, oh, by the way, your wife Jenny made a hole-in-one. Plus, you played the Kinloch Club. Tell us about your trip over to New Zealand.
I loved it, Chris. New Zealand has become one of the places you must travel to, not just for the golf, although the golf is exceptional. I think some of the best courses in the world at Tara Iti, Te Arai, Kinloch, Kidnappers, Curry Cliffs. There's so many amazing golf courses down into Christchurch, through down into Queenstown. I mean, there's just so many. We spent 19 days. We played 17 days in a row while we were there. It's really become a golfing mecca. But while you're traveling, it's not just the golf; it's the beauty of the country and the people. And the times that I've had there have just been absolutely amazing. Everyone treated us so well. And a lot of places I'd go to play golf, they didn't know me as Ian Baker-Finch, the Open Champion. It was just Ian and Jenny coming for a game of golf. So I was treated well, not because of my fame in the game, although perhaps during the day or afterwards they may have learned that. But it was just an exceptional journey we took. And we're going back this coming March. We're going back for the entire month to spend time with Jeff and Marie and our friends that we've met. We're staying, when I go home this time in Australia, we're staying down in the Sandbelt to play the great courses in Melbourne, Australia, for a couple of months while I'm there doing some work with the Australian PGA. And I still love to play, and Jenny does as well. And that trip to New Zealand was something extra special.
Te Arai looks fantastic, especially from the fourth hole on. Some compare it to Pebble Beach. Is that a fair comparison?
Better.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah. It's. I know that's seems like a lot to say. Sometimes a lot of the great courses are revered because they're so well known, and we've seen them on TV, and there's major championships played there, and we get to see these beautiful holes in perfectly manicured conditions for tournament golf. But when you go play Tara Iti and Te Arai, north and south, those three courses are all in the top 10 in the world, I have no doubt. They are spectacular, wonderful golf experiences, every one of them. That's just, you couldn't find anywhere better in the world to play three great golf courses. And then there's a lot of great golf in New York, out on Long Island and up into the Hamptons. There's a lot of great golf in the Sandbelt in Australia. In the Sunningdale area, southwest of London, there's 10 great courses there. There's a lot of great golfing holiday areas, but I think you'd find it very hard to find somewhere better than where we were in New Zealand this past February, March.
So you got to tell us about Jenny's hole-in-one.
Well, she holed a 4 hybrid. It was 155 yards uphill. And she was playing there was 4 guys in the group behind the 4 girls. All their wives were playing. And she holed this. She was first to tee off. And we heard them all. We were up on top of the hill on the 10th green, and they were down on the 11th on the north course at Te Arai. It was our last day. And we heard them all screaming and yelling. And one of the guys in our group said, it must be whoever Terry, I forget the caddy's name now. Sorry, off the top of my head. Whoever Jenny's caddy was, they said he's the lucky one. So whoever he's caddying for must have had a hole-in-one. And sure enough, it was Jenny. And we had a great day. I shot 66 that day, missed shooting my age because I 3-putted the last 2 greens. If I'd 2-putted, I would have broken my age. So that was good fun. And Jenny had a hole-in-one. So that made that day extra special.
Did she have to buy drinks for everybody in the clubhouse?
Yeah, on my credit card.
No doubt.
It was good. It was a great day, but really the trip was fantastic. And if any of your listeners are planning a trip, there's lots of great golf in Scotland and Ireland and England and closer by. But Australia and New Zealand have a lot of wonderful golf courses to offer. I urge you all to, add the area to your bucket list and just take a couple of weeks and go play some great golf.
Finchy, just a few more before I let you go. And looking at the Open this year at Royal Portrush, It's only hosted the Open twice since it's outside of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Have you ever played there at Royal Portrush?
Yes. In fact, Chris, I've played there a lot because we covered the Senior British Open when I worked for ABC and ESPN 20 years ago or more. We used to cover the Senior British Open. And when we were doing that tournament, we were allowed to, the television guys were encouraged actually and allowed to go out and play the courses after the day. So, as you know, the light is till 10 or 11 o'clock at night at times. And we'd go out and play, and Royal Portrush was the host venue for a couple of years. And in fact, when I was there, I met Rory McIlroy and his dad, Jerry. They were playing the other course. And Rory had recently shot 61, I believe, to shoot the course record there. When I met him, I believe he was only 15 back then. It would have been 20 years ago, or might have only been 14. But anyway, great memories, wonderful golf course, really, really harsh, tough links at Royal Portrush. People will enjoy watching this on TV. I'm sure it'll look spectacular.
So what do you think are the keys to winning at Royal Portrush? What do they got to do in order to be in contention?
Handle the elements. I'm sure the elements will throw whatever they can at them. It's right on the ocean up there on the Giants Causeway. Wind blows from all different directions. It's quite tight. The rough is extremely severe and thick. The greens are treacherous, although because of the wind, they typically don't get the greens that quick there. So people that are not good on slow greens tend not to do well at the Open Championship. As we saw last week at the Scottish Open, the greens were between 10.5 and 11 on the Stimpmeter, which in America, that's very, very slow. It's hard to hit the putts hard enough. Makes short putting a lot easier, I believe, though. So it's more about maintaining your composure in the tough times and the tough elements. A lot of luck involved in the draw. I see Podrick Harrington's teeing off first tomorrow at 6:35 a.m. He may just have a golden start. You know, those early times might be easy, fresh, no wind, no rain. You know, we'll see. Well, not tomorrow, the next day. We'll see what happens there with the weather. But there's always a lot of luck involved in the draw times, I think, at the Open Championship because of what can happen with the weather. I think the top players are the ones to watch, like a Rory, Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, as I said. Justin Rose played well again last week, and he's had a couple of runner-up finishes at the Masters and at the Open Championship last year, so I expect to see him do well. Shane Lowry, I think too, having won there in 19, he'll be right there. So I know it'll be a tough test. That's and it always looks good, doesn't it? It looks so different watching the links golf.
Indeed. So whose game do you think it favors? Who do you like to be near the top of the leaderboard come late in the afternoon on Sunday?
The players I just mentioned there, I always look for the best players in good form at the major championships because I don't think you arrive there and find your game. I think you have to arrive there with a good game. I think Rory has a good mindset right now, having performed well last week. I know he didn't win, but finishing second, played well. He's had a bit of a month or two of getting over being the sixth man to complete the Grand Slam at the Masters after an 11-year wait. I think that was, an exceptional story. So I believe he'll be there. And I always think Scotty Scheffler will be somewhere near the top. And, if I'm looking at the guys from LIV, John Rahm played well last week in Spain, just losing out by one. Bryson DeChambeau should do well, although if the weather's tough, I think he struggles with controlling his irons, and you have to do that in major championship golf. But I think it'll be. I can't give you a dark horse like a JJ Spawn at the US Open, if you will. Maybe it's someone that we just haven't seen much of before. Maybe someone like Sepp Straka, who's played so well this year and won a couple of times. So. Someone that can keep the ball in play and control their emotions.
Finchy, before I let you go, remind our listeners, how can they stay up to date with all the great things you're out there doing whether they're following you on social media or watching you on television?
Well, I'm on CBS Sports. We've got a couple of tournaments coming up, the 3M Open next week, and then, of course, the Wyndham, which is the last of our season. NBC takes over with the playoffs. Ian Baker-Finch is my handle on Instagram. I don't post a lot. I really just post great photos of golf and golf courses and buddies. And then, of course, my book's coming out. It's called To Hell and Back. It's a lovely read, a good story. I hope people enjoy the read.
Finchy, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to come back and be a part of the show. You're fantastic, my friend. I think you're one of the all-timers, whether it was on the golf course or certainly in the booth and out there commentating. You're just one of the best guys that there is. So I can't thank you enough for all you've meant to me over the years and coming back and be a part of this week's show.
I'll come back whenever you ask me, Chris, and keep up the great work. I enjoy the show, and I'm sure the listeners do as well. Thank you.
I appreciate you. All the best to you and Jenny. We'll catch up soon.
Thank you very much. All the best to you.
Thanks. See you, Finchy.
Bye, mate.
That is the great Ian Baker-Finch, folks. As a player, as a commentator, and just as a person, they just don't come better. I can't thank him enough for everything that he has meant to me over the years. This is the 5th time I've had the privilege of spending some time with him, and the stories and the insights and just getting to know the person that Finchy is. It just comes through the microphone and you learn about what a great human being he is. Look, people want to say what they want to say about his playing career. Look, the guy won an Open Championship and then went on for years afterwards to still contend and be at the top of leaderboards. I mean, you're 1% of the 1%ers. And that's tremendous for having accomplished the things that he has accomplished. And then to go on to be one of the all-time great commentators is just icing on the cake after that. And like I say, just a great human being. I look forward to catching up with Finchy and getting the copy of his book. Again, it's titled To Hell and Back. I can't wait for the hard copy to come out, and I can read those stories. Hopefully we get the opportunity to catch up with him a little bit later on in the year. Coming up next is a guy who's been a wonderful part of the show, going all the way back to season number 1. So for over 11 years now, and that is Paul Stankowski. Stanko is a great guy. You're really going to enjoy this next segment. Before we get into it, I want to remind you about our wonderful friends over at On Point Golf and their out of this world On Point golf ball marker. And if you don't have one, folks, you really need to go check it out at onpointgolf.us. Get the #1 ball marker in the game of golf. On Point is the only 3-dimensional ball marker out there, with alignment technology and a removable coin that is approved to use according to the rules of golf. As you know, putting is all about line and pace. Mark your ball with On Point, engage with your 3-dimensional ball marker, and have more confidence in your line, execute the putt, and you're going to lower your scores. Do what the likes of Jim Furyk, PGA professionals, and amateurs alike are doing now. They use the #1 ball marker in golf and they lower their scores. You know Ken Duke and Thongchai JD. They won for the first time on the PGA Tour in 2023, and they were using an On Point ball marker. Get yours at onpointgolf.us and make more putts. And oh, by the way, you can also customize the removable coin for any club, event, or corporate outing. They make really great tee gifts and custom products. That's also going to help lower your score. I use On Point ball markers. Mine is black and gold, 3D black golf ball with a gold line down the middle to help me line up my putts. It's like having a 15th club in my bag. It's helped my game. Why wouldn't you let it help yours? Again, onpointgolf.us. See what I'm talking about. Order yours today. All right, now back in next on the tee with me is Champions Tour Pro Paul Stankowski. Paul has been a great guest on this show, going all the way back to episode number 7 on June 1st of 2014. So I've had the privilege of talking to Stanko for 11 years now. I always look forward to the times when he's a part of the show because he is a special guy and a great player. Let me remind you about his background. He's from Oxnard, California. Started playing golf at the age of 8. He attended the University of Texas at El Paso, where he was a 3-time All-American. He won the Western Athletic Conference Championship in 1990, turned pro the next year in 91. Got his first pro victory at the 1996 Nike Louisiana Open on what is now the Korn Ferry Tour. He backed that up by winning the very next week on the PGA Tour at the Bell South Classic here in Atlanta, becoming the first player in history to win on the Korn Ferry Tour and the PGA Tour in back-to-back weeks. In all, Paul has 7 professional victories, 43 top 10s. We can now see him, like I say, out on the Champions Tour, where he's had back-to-back top 10s in the U.S. Senior Open and the Dick's Sporting Goods Open. I'm very thankful he has taken time out of his night to come back and be a part of the show this week. Hey, Paul, how are you, my friend?
Chris, I'm doing great.
That's good news.
I'm at home in Dallas watching the All-Star game and enjoying a week off.
Good for you. So you were at the Rangers game as well.
We Josh and I went to a Ranger game last week or a week and a half ago, and it's always fun taking in sporting events, and I think Josh might be one of the biggest sports fans I've ever met. He's a fanatic when it comes to Dallas Stars hockey, and he loves the Rangers baseball and Mavs and Cowboys, but hockey's his thing.
And you and Clark Dennis have that Texas Rangers thing. You guys compare notes about the Rangers when you guys get together?
Yeah, you know what? It was nice a couple years ago. You know, we were on top of the world, and it seems like things have kind of floated back down to earth, and and we're struggling through a very mediocre season here. But you know what? It's the All-Star break. Hopefully they come out. They kind of ended the last couple weeks before the break kind of on a high note. They won a few series, and you never know. You know, it's baseball. They're pitching one of the best pitching staffs in baseball, but offensively they've just kind of struggled. And so hopefully the bats will get hot, the pitching will stay the same, and they'll make a run at those dreadful Astros over there in Houston, and maybe have a chance to come back to win the West.
There you go. And Paul, you are playing so well right now, like I mentioned in your intro, top 10s the last couple of tournaments, including the U.S. Senior Open. Did you find something in your game over the last few weeks that has propelled you up to the top of the leaderboards?
You know, the last couple of weeks, Chris, I putted better, which, as you know, I mean, it's all about putting. If you putt well, you have a chance to be in contention, and if you hit it well on top of putting well, then you have a chance to win. And you know, I at the end of last year, I hired a trainer. I changed my golf swing. I changed some equipment, and it's been a process. And you know, I'm still not where I want to be or where I'd like to be with the offensive side, if you will, the iron play and the golf swing. I went from hitting a fade. I've been a fader for 40 years. And kind of changed my path on my swing. I went from 3 degrees flat on my irons to 1 degree upright. That's a 4-degree change. So I changed my path on my swing and really the start lines. Everything's different, and so I'm still learning. And it's been fun to mix in a few good weeks in the midst of this process, because I knew it wasn't going to be easy and it wasn't going to be very quick. But very encouraged the last couple of weeks. I kept the ball in play at the U.S. Open, which is huge. And in spite of like 6 or 7 3-putts during the week, I felt like I rolled it really well on some very difficult greens at the Broadmoor. And last week, I hit it. I hit a few really crummy drives over the week, but for the most part, solid. But just like a foot in the rough here, a foot in the rough there, and at Enjoy Golf Club up in Endicott, New York, I call it like a mini Firestone. Firestone is one of the hardest golf courses we play. It's long, it's very tight, it's tree lined. You miss fairways, you're having to hit little punch 7-irons underneath the canopies of trees and run them up. That's what you get at Enjoy, but it's a little shorter version of that, and so not as demanding lengthwise. But when you make a lot of 5 to 10 foot putts, it definitely it hides some of the mistakes you make. So I'm grateful last week to have putted well, and 2 top 10s is nice. It changed the way I'm looking about the rest of the season, and I enter this part of the stretch of the season more encouraged than I was a month ago.
Your short game is what has stuck out to me, as you were kind of mentioning there, Paul, because you've been inside the top 15 and scrambling not only the last couple of weeks, but all season long. You're 6th on the Champions Tour this season overall, plus your 7th in sand saves. How much of your practice routine do you dedicate to your short game?
I'll give you the fun answer. I spend all my time practicing my short game. The real answer is I don't spend a lot of time working on my short game, honestly. And like I said, this year it's been a challenge, swing wise. Changing habits that I've had since I was a kid, and boy, it's a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. But the scrambling stats are a little bit um, disguised, if you will, right? Our tour doesn't keep track of stats like the PGA Tour does. We don't have strokes gained, anywhere. It's just basically fairways, greens, and putts per green in regulation. So scrambling stats are they are what they are. You miss a green, you get it up and down. That's an up and down. And my greens missed this year. I'm not missing them big. I'm missing them little. I'm just off the green. A lot of my up and downs for the most part are very simple. And so from that standpoint there, the stats might look amazing, but I don't feel like, this year, like, man, I'm really scrambling well. Um, it just kind of seems normal to me, right? But you miss big and you get them up and down, big flop shots over bunkers or whatever. When you big short sides, then you go, oh wow, that's a big up and down. But I'm just it's been my misses have been small, and unfortunately this year as a whole, I just hadn't hit it close enough with my irons to really give myself good enough looks. At birdie, but in the last couple of weeks, I have hit the ball closer. I'm still missing more greens than I want to miss, but most of those are short-sided. That could be a little bit strategic strategy versus errant swings, right? If I get a little too aggressive and you short-side yourself, you miss it by a foot. Usually those aren't great lies. Missing the green by a little bit, you almost rather miss it by 5 or 6 feet, and you have trample down lies, if you will. But so all in all, I'd say the big word for me is encouraged. I'm seeing good things each week. I'm feeling more and more comfortable with the new patterns that I'm trying to build into my golf swing. And when you're used to looking 15 feet left of a flag and seeing the ball fade back, and all of a sudden your mind says, no, I need to draw this thing 5 feet. It's mentally it's a struggle, but I think overall I think I'm winning the battle and I'm getting better.
So let's take that a step further, because your final round scoring average this season is 69.64, which is good for 12th on the tour. So feeling better, getting more confident, is that building throughout the tournament? Are you going from the first round to the second round to the third round, building more and more confidence because that swing is getting better, so therefore your scores are going lower and lower?
You know what? I haven't looked at that. That's encouraging to see that my final round scoring average is better. I've always, it's funny. I'm not a gambling guy, but I do try to pattern a little bit of my golf around Texas Hold'em. So, Chris, if you're sitting in a Texas Hold'em tournament, what's your objective besides winning the whole thing? What's your ultimate objective is to get to the final table, right?
Yep.
So you play the cards that are dealt, and you play them well. You don't have to go all in on the first hand, because you don't want to be out. You want to be there at the final table. Let everybody else go out. So I've kind of tried to. I've always played well. I used to be really aggressive early in my career, which probably was a detriment. I fired at far too many pins. Phil Mickelson, one of the most aggressive players in my generation, but his ability was, 1,000 times more than mine. So, he was better off firing at pins because he hit it better. I was a little bit loose, but I still fired at pins, and consequently, I short side myself badly and make stupid mistakes. So, as I've gotten older, I've gotten a little smarter, a little bit, I think. I don't hit it as far, so I can't hit it as far offline. But I'm more strategic in my approach, and I think which bodes well to being, a little bit shorter. My misses aren't as big. When you get hot with the flat stick, things kind of tend to work out in your favor. So, but anyway, I think I got off tangent there.
No worries. You guys have the Senior Open coming up at the old course at Sunningdale Golf Club. It's considered one of the top courses in the world, consistently among the top 30. But links golf is a much different game than the one that we play here in the States. How do you prepare yourself to go over there and play that style of golf?
Yeah, first of all, Sunningdale is really good. My son and I went over in 21. That was my first Senior Open, and I was blown away at how good that golf course is. It's a course that you can play it multiple ways. You can be really aggressive, hit drivers, and take on these fairway bunkers out there. And if you drive it good, you're going to have shorter clubs into the green, some wedges and 9-irons. But if you don't drive it well, you're going to be in those bunkers, which are automatic. You're going to have a wedge, but it's going to be a wedge out and then a wedge into the green. So I chose last year to kind of or last time I played in 21, to kind of lay back a little bit and hit a lot of driving errors off tees and hybrids to take those bunkers out of play, which gave me longer clubs into the greens, which obviously makes the golf course a little more challenging, right? Because you're hitting 6 and 7 irons into greens versus wedges and 9-irons, and you just don't hit those as close. So that being said, I had a horrible back 9 on Friday and missed the cut. And so, as my son says, we have unfinished business to do there this year at Sunningdale. It's not a links course. It's really a traditional kind of a parkland, I guess, if you will, kind of golf course. So the greens are they're pretty large. They're not very fast, kind of typical to what we see over there in the UK, which I listened to a little bit of Finchy and him talking about the struggles of U.S. players going over to the Open Championship and the struggles they have on the greens, because granted, we're putting 12 on the step meter every week, and then you go out there and you're putting on greens that are 10 and a half, 11, and it's not only that you can't get them to the hole, but you're reading breaks differently, and if you have a 15-foot putt that a tour speed is a cup out to the right, well, when your greens are a foot and a half slower, you're not playing a cut, but then you got to play it more break. And so it's just everything changes, and it's tough to, to in 3 days to figure that out. Right. And that's why I think historically, you don't have a ton of U.S. players at the top of the leaderboard at the end of the week. It's kind of scattered between U.S. and UK guys. So same thing we're going to see here at Sunningdale next week for us. The greens are 10 and a half, maybe 11 on the step meter, a lot of slope to them. So you get uphill putts and a 30-footer uphill, then there's no chance you're getting to the hole. It's so slow. So it's you're going to hit some putts, and you got to have a good sense of humor, I think, when you play major championships, and especially over there, because you're going to look foolish at times. But it's 72 holes. You got to stay patient. As I talk to Josh all the time, it's like, let's control the controllables and let's focus on one shot at a time and go play some golf and add them up. And we're really looking forward to going over and playing.
When you play a course like Sunningdale or the old course at St. Andrews or any one of those fantastic golf courses over there in the UK, do you get a sense of the history? I mean, when I look back at Sunningdale, I mean, Bobby Jones played there for the Open Qualifier in 1926. He shot what many people considered to be the perfect round, 33 shots, 33 putts, never made anything more than a 4. I mean, do you get a sense of all the history that has walked on those fairways prior to you?
Chris, so I'm not a huge golf historian, right? I grew up in Southern California. I grew up on a 9-hole Navy golf course. I didn't know who Donald Ross was or C.B. McDonald or any of the great architects of the generation, right? And so I'm still learning those names. But I'll tell you what, 23, I was exempt to play at Wales, where I can't remember the golf. I never heard of the golf course before, but it was our Senior Open in Wales at, gosh, I'm there again. Like I say, I'm not a historian. So it was a tournament in Wales. I didn't know where the venue was, and I chose not to go. I heard the weather could be bad, and so I'm like, I'm not going over there to play in 40-mile-an-hour winds. No thanks. So I didn't go, and I turned the TV on Thursday morning, and when I turned it on, I saw the logo, the Senior Open, and I felt like a turd. I really did for not going, and I really regretted it. The Royal Porthcawl is what the name of the golf course, or Porthcawl. I've never heard of it, right? And but I felt really. I was like, golly, I've grinded every year just to get out on the Champions Tour. I'm not exempt. I don't have enough career money to be exempt every year. I don't have enough career wins or points. So I've got to earn it every single year to earn the opportunity to play. And I was exempt in a tournament and I said no. And I felt like an idiot. So I love it. Coming down the stretch at the U.S. Senior Open at Broadmoor a couple weeks ago, I looked at the scoreboard, I looked at the signage and all the people, and I'm like, wow, this is cool. This is our, age group dash senior open. And going next week to the British Open, if you will, the Senior Open Championship. I'm excited. It's such a prestigious event, and this isn't the one they're playing. Scotty and the boys, like, that's the real Open. We're the age group Open, right? The over 50 guys, but it's still so cool. And we're going to get there, and I'm going to look at the scoreboards and the signage, and it's the trophy, and there's something about major championship golf that just really, it deep down inside, just really gets me fired up, and I'm excited that I get a chance to play again at 55 years old. I'm an old guy, and they still let me play in these tournaments, and so we're excited. I can't wait. Sunnydale's cool. It's an easy flight to London from Dallas, nonstop. So I got no excuses, and we're coming in, playing some decent golf. So I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch what happens. Paul, before I let you go, you're doing some great things along with Direction 61.3. Remind everybody about what you're doing with them.
So Direction 61.3 it's a nonprofit that offers housing and community to kids who age out of foster care. And I didn't know a thing about foster care until a few years ago. My wife read about Direction 61.3, one of our local newspapers, and she was intrigued, and she was looking for something to do, kind of, to spend some time and effort into, and so she looked into what they're doing. They're a local Dallas area ministry, and so she started volunteering a little bit and buying up some of their Amazon wish list, things that the kids needed, because at 18 years old, Chris, those kids who are in foster care on their 18th birthday, they're out. They give them a little bit of a stipend at like $500, and they say, good luck. And unless the family that they're living with wants to let them stay longer, they're homeless. And 85% of those kids who turn 18 are homeless. And what happens to them after that? The statistics are not good, from drug abuse to trafficking to suicides. And so all I'm doing, I'm wearing a hat. I'm wearing their logo, Direct 61.3. We did a campaign called Birdies for Foster Youth. And so people can follow my season and pledge every birdie I make. They can pledge, whether it's $1, $10, $50, $100. I mean, we're looking for companies that want to do something cool with their extra funds and their giving, so we can raise about $100,000. That was my goal last year. We fell a little bit short, but I'm still grateful for everybody who decided to donate. And the money goes toward running these homes, and they have 6, 7 homes now in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, mostly McKinney and Denton. They have a farm that they've been given, this 5-acre land that they're wanting to turn into a series of apartments and homes that they can house over 50 of these youth, and to help them thrive as adults. They're teaching them life lessons and teaching them how to save money, how to work hard, just life stuff, life skills that they don't otherwise know. And so it's been Chris, has been so much fun doing something different. I've usually sold my headwear, whether you're wearing an equipment company or some corporation that's paying me money, and in turn we're actually wearing their headwear for free, trying to raise awareness to raise money. And it's been neat doing that. Our golf tournament was in early June this year here in Dallas, their fundraising tournament. And it was a big hit, and we're excited about next year's already. And I'm just trying to raise money to help change lives of some of these youth here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Foster care is something I knew nothing about. I'm learning a lot more about now, and they're the forgotten, youth, and a lot of people don't think about it. So anyway, it's neat. If your listeners, feel led to pledge in our Birdies for Foster Youth, they can go to direction613.org. And they have to click around. It's not easy to find on the website, but there's a link for Birdies for Foster Youth, or they can go to my website on Instagram. I'm Paul Stankowski on Instagram, and on my in my bio is a link to the fundraiser. And our goal, like I say, is to raise $100,000. If I can find a company, a corporate company, there's some of these companies out there that have billions of dollars, and they have to give a lot away. And so if we can find one of them to maybe want to do $100 a birdie, I'm going to make about $300 a year. So that would be $30,000. That would be 30% of what our goal is this year. So maybe there's some corporate guy in your listener program that feels led. So I hope so. But anyway, it's been fun to do this, which is different, and I'm grateful that my wife stumbled upon them. And Myron Wilson, the director, is doing some great things and really changing the lives of some of these youth here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Kudos to you guys and to them. What great stuff. Paul, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to come back and be a part of the show. Like I said at the very top, I've been privileged now for 11 years. You were a guy that I give a lot of credit to, because episode number 7, back on June 1st of 2014, you were willing to join a show you never heard of with a guy you never heard of. And I'm forever grateful for that, and for the 14 times now that I've been blessed to have you as part of the show. You mean a great deal to me. You're a great friend and a great player. And I'm already looking forward to number 15.
Well, brother, I appreciate it. Thanks again for having me on. As I told you after that first interview back in I can't believe it was 2014. My word, time is flying by. You're the best interviewer I've ever come across, and you're thorough. You find stuff that I didn't even know existed. And so, thank you for being great. And my charge to you is keep being great, because you're doing a great job. I love your show.
I appreciate you, Paul. Thank you for that very much. All the best to you, Josh, and your family, my friend. Best of luck going over to the Senior Open. I can't wait to watch you guys play.
Thanks, Chris. We'll talk. Can't wait to talk again.
Same here. See you, Paul.
Bye-bye.
That's the great Paul Stankowski, folks. I mean, look, direction613.org is doing great work, just like he just said. I mean, my goodness, can you believe that at 18 years old, they're giving these kids some cash and saying the best of luck to you? How awful is that? Yeah, we got to do something to make that different or better. And then on top of that, Paul is just a wonderful human being and a great player, and he's meant a lot to me over the years, and I can't thank him enough for all the times that he has been a part of this show. And I promise you, I am so excited to watch he and so many other great players that have been wonderful friends of this show go over and compete in the Senior Open, and then for the rest of the year. And hopefully we get an opportunity. Paul's a huge Alabama fan, huge Dallas Cowboys fan. Hopefully we get the opportunity to get him back on the show a little bit later on this fall. All right, my friends, it is time for me to put a bow on part 1 of this week's show. My sincere thanks again to Ian Baker-Finch and Paul Stankowski for joining me. 2 of my all-time favorites. These guys, I hope you really enjoyed part 1 of this week's show. They're just great guys. That's the beginning of everything right there. Just 2 great individuals that have gone on to have, obviously, they're part of the 1% of the 1%ers that have had great golf careers. Finchy being an Open champion, Paul having won the number of times that he has out on tour, 7 professional victories, 43 top 10s, and still out there killing it on the Champions Tour with back-to-back top 10s in the U.S. Senior Open and the Dick's Sporting Goods Open. So hopefully we get to catch up with both of those guys soon. And speaking of great individuals, I hope you'll come back for part 2 of this week's show featuring Mike Whalen. Mike is an unbelievable person, just a wonderful friend for many years. He's the guy that got the Golf Channel started and up off the ground. He hired everybody at the Golf Channel, got it all done inside of 6 months. And by everybody, I mean all of those in front of and behind the cameras. He created each and every one of the shows. I mean, this guy is so unbelievably talented. He is such a creative genius. And then cancer took its toll on him. Parkinson's has come and stolen his wife away from him. It's an unbelievably heartbreaking situation that they are dealing with. You'll hear all about it. You'll see it through Mike's eyes. You'll experience the things that he has through his heart. That's the biggest thing about Mike, is his heart. He's going to share it with you in this next segment. Folks, I can't thank you enough for continuing to make Next on the Tee a part of your weekly golf content. Until next time, hit 'em straight, my friends.
Thanks for joining Chris again this week on Next on the Tee. We hope you enjoyed the conversations as much as we did. Please share the show with your golf buddies and be sure to follow it on Trib Live or your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. Thanks for pressing play and being part of the journey. We'll see you next week, right here, where the best minds in golf share their stories.